the chat bar so we know who's here. Thank you very much. Right, shall we get started? Right, welcome to the Kilsyth Community Board, the 14th September 2022. And for anybody that doesn't know, my name's Bill Craik. I currently chair of the board. What we'd like to do just now is to hold a 1 minute silence in memory of Her Majesty the Queen, who's sadly left us and left a grieving family of all ages. So I will set my timer and we'll have a minute's silence. Right, I don't know what happened there. I lost contact, but thanks everybody for coming along to the meeting. And I would advise that Kamil Komazik from Vanel will not be attending meeting tonight because unfortunately he's been in a car crash. And but Ian Johnston is here to be able to update us in due course on the community Concordat, which is under item 3. Yes. Do we have any apologies? I have one, Christine, and that's from Alan Stevenson. Yep. His wife is in hospital, so he's visiting her tonight.
Okay. Chair, there's also, obviously, you've mentioned Kamil Komazik.
Yes.
Sharon Gusman from NHS Lanarkshire can't be here tonight. I think Matt mentioned earlier that Scottish Fire and Rescue can't be here tonight either.
Yes. Okay. And the possibility of the police.
Yeah, potentially Police Scotland as well, Chair,
yes.
On the basis of they're covering a lot of the work relating to the Queen's funeral, etc.
Yes. Right, thanks very much. The minute of the previous meeting of the 8th June, that there's an update, a fair trade. There was a written update circulated with the papers, and I don't know if anybody has any questions or anything they want to raise regarding that written update. Operation Moto X, unfortunately, police are not here to give us an update on that, but we will get an update. And oh, sorry,
yeah,
Matt.
Chair, just a very brief update in relation to Moto X. There has been some delays in relation to the procurement of the appropriate machinery for the off-road bikes, etc. But that's something we are working on in conjunction with the police at the moment, and we'll give a further update at a future board.
Grant. That's good. Thanks very much, Matt. A community Concordat update. Ian, would you like to?
Yeah, I'll come in there. Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming along tonight. I just want to give a little bit of a small update on where we're at with the Community Concordat. I'll start off by explaining what that is. In the most simple terms, the Community Concordat is an agreed way of working between the North Lanarkshire Partnership, which includes Scottish Fire and Rescue, Police Scotland, NHS Lanarkshire, and the North Lanarkshire Council, as well as various members from the community and the voluntary the voluntary sector, the CVS, as well as community boards. So what we're aiming to do is host a series of focus groups to cover the 9 localities. We'll then look at 8 focus groups and an additional that will deal with minority groups specifically to help gather those voices and make sure we capture them properly. And then we'll also have 4 additional ones which will get North Lanarkshire Council, North Lanarkshire CVS organisations, and Police Scotland, Scottish Fire and Rescue, and NHS Lanarkshire to get their thoughts on the process as well. And essentially this is to look at ways that we can have more shared values, approaches, and empower and invest in local communities to support wellbeing, equality, sustainability. Is there any questions I might be able to answer on this? Happy enough? What I'm going to do is we've got these events coming up and they'll all be on the Eventbrite. Some are yet to still be scheduled, so these will run from, well, they have run from early September and they'll probably run till late October. So if you're interested, the link's there in the chat box and we can share that around further if anybody wants to get their hands on it. We'd encourage people to sign up and come along. Sadly, due to the Queen's death, we will be postponing the Quote Bridge event just because it's on the same day. I think that's as far as things go, as far as the updates go, but happy enough to answer any questions you may have.
Ian, maybe we could get together because I missed the Kilsyth one. Did you have a turnout? I don't know.
Oh, the Kilsyth one's still to happen if you give me a moment.
No, that was past.
Keep me right. The Kilsyth event. I'll get the details one moment.
I think the Kilsyth one was Tuesday the 6th.
Oh, sorry. It has been a long week. It has been Tuesday the 6th. Yeah, I'm happy enough to meet up if you'd like, Bill.
Did you have a turnout at on Tuesday?
Tuesday, I can get the exact numbers. They weren't massive, but we did have some very good conversations. If you give me a moment, I can tell you exactly how many people came along to this one. Generally just because of the nature of the buildings, and we're still operating quite closely with our COVID restrictions. We had, if you give me a moment, it was only 8 people that came along that registered at the very least, but we are hoping to continue to get this more rolled out. So obviously the timescales don't work for everybody, so what we've been offering instead is kind of ad hoc meetings that we can capture that information. And we're also inviting people along to things like the CVS or the focus groups if they are unable to meet those initial dates. So happy enough to meet you, Bill.
Right, I'll arrange with you a meeting. I don't know, Heather. I don't think you managed to go either. No, so I don't know whether Jean you managed.
No, I didn't.
No.
They never checked council committee diaries because it clashed with council committees.
Well, this is part of the problem, yeah. So what I'll do is I'll arrange a meeting with Ian in conjunction with yourselves, and I know Alan Stevenson wants to be involved.
Yeah.
So we'll get round the table, as you might say.
Yeah,
We'll get a coffee in the Scarecrow and have a good chat.
sounds good. If you can propose a date, I'm happy enough to try and accommodate it.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. So you can go and get your tea now,
That's the
or
aim.
dinner, or whatever you want to call it.
Right. All the best. Thank you so much. Enjoy your night.
Thank you. Now, item 4, we've got some updates. We've got quite a number of verbal updates. All right, Suzanne, would you like to? You got your hand up.
Sorry, I did that by accident. Sorry.
Oh, right. Okay. Right. As I say, we've got quite a number of verbal updates. Can we have these updates short and succinct? Because there's to give people a chance to ask any questions. Right. Christine, you're on first.
Thanks, Chair. Just wanted to give a wee bit of background to the LOIP, just in case there's any newer people here that weren't involved in the process. The Kilsyth LOIP was developed following a wider engagement process that involved local community groups and organisations, community planning partners, and also involved seldom heard voices to identify local priorities for the Kilsyth and Villages area. The priorities were endorsed by the Kilsyth Community Board and are now published and available on the Council's website. We're now at the stage where we are looking to take forward priorities that have been identified locally and are contacting key organisations with knowledge, experience in the areas to look towards developing key actions or taking forward key actions to address the priorities that have been identified by local people. And I'll pass you over to Irene. Some of the partners, ourselves and FANL and NHS Lanarkshire, have been meeting to look at how we support that process. And Irene will be able to give us a wee update on that. Thanks, Bill.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Christine. Thank you. I just want to remind the community board members that there is 7 local priorities identified for the Kilsyth locality, and I'll just remind you what partner agencies are going to support those actions. Myself, I will be supporting the food and financial insecurity. Health and wellbeing will be supported by Sharon Gusman, NHS Lanarkshire, and Camille Tomzik Van El will be supporting the improved environment with a focus in the town centre, as well as the public and community transport action plan. At the moment, there is no one being identified yet for the community engagement action plan, and Christine Boyle, North Lanarkshire Council, and Sharon Gusman from NHS Lanarkshire will both support the targeted action. Now, you might realise that I've missed out digital inclusion as an action plan, but that's merely because there's been an agreement that each of the subgroups will discuss digital inclusion / exclusion. Any issues or concerns that is raised at any of the subgroups, we will feed back to both Bill and Alan Stevenson, who are members of the Driving Digital Locally group. So that's an explanation about who's supporting what are the actions. I can speak about the food and financial insecurity group specifically. At the moment, I'm still identifying key players to be involved in the subgroup. Croy Community Hub and Friends of Kilsyth have expressed an interest, along with our own financial inclusion team within North Lanarkshire Council and Social Security Scotland. There has been no date set yet for any of the subgroup meetings regarding food and financial insecurity. However, Croy Community Hub are hosting an event in the Challenge Poverty Week, and the event will be held on Wednesday, October the 5th, which is right in the middle of the Challenge Poverty Week, from 11 till 1. And myself and Sharon Gusman are going to engage with the local community to try and identify other issues, as well as recruit for the subgroup members as well. We are calling it a chill and chat. There will be tea and coffee and nibbles there, so it's because on Wednesdays, for those that don't know, Croy Community Hub has their food pantry open, they will have the credit union open, and they're also having a tabletop sale. So we've realised we need to do face-to-face engagement. So for the next board meeting, end of November, beginning of December, certainly we'll have more of a thorough update to give you regarding how that event went. Sharon and I will be evaluating the event, and we'll be taking various information with us to share with local people round about food and financial insecurity, as well as health and wellbeing, because Sharon's leading up in the health and wellbeing, and that happens to be the Breast Cancer Awareness Week as well. So any questions I'm happy to take. I might not be able to answer them all because obviously my partners aren't here. Councillor McVeigh.
You're on
Sorry.
mute, Heather.
You're on mute.
Sorry. On the food and financial insecurity group, there are some well-kent faces missing for that list that you've given. I'm thinking in particular of Kilsyth Community Food Bank. I'm thinking about Cumbernauld Poverty Action or the local CAB, because they actually do work in Kilsyth and they have Kilsyth surgeries. So I appreciate some of this might dovetail into the Cumbernauld group if they've got shared priorities to us. But Kilsyth Community Food Bank in particular, I would think, you know, they may have been asked, but I think they would be an important provider to be in there. And potentially as well, we've got two community credit unions. And I think for the services that they do, they might have something to contribute as well.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm happy to explore that. Absolutely happy to explore that, Councillor.
Thanks very much. And if there's, you know, if we can assist in encouraging people in any way, shape or form, just let us know what information you're taking to them so that we can say, look, you've got this, you've seen it, it's really important. How do we encourage you?
Thank you.
Because, I mean, the first, the Community Food Bank, they were the first really to tackle food insecurity and poverty in a very explicit and upfront way, whereas other groups have evolved and done it quite quietly. And I suppose we maybe need to look at some of our faith organisations, whether it be the local St Vincent de Paul or others from the church community, because very quietly and very purposefully folk get help. Some churches have got services that are specifically about debt and financial management. I'm thinking about the storehouse. They've previously done things like that. So I think perhaps communicating through our faith community might actually help expand that group, because our faith communities have been very active in tackling poverty and getting folk the support that they need as well.
Thank you.
Thanks, Heather.
I don't know, I know Irene, Chair, is it okay if I just do a wee quick update in the youth engagement group?
Yes.
What we've been doing is we've been get in contact with a range of community organisations, and as Councillor Brandon McVeigh mentioned there, we will be contacting the church organisations in relation to that as well, because we know there's a lot of youth provision that's delivered locally. So that's ongoing just now, and we've started that contact with those local organisations, and we look to arrange a meeting in the next couple of weeks so that we can pull people together to start looking at the youth engagement subgroup as well. The other subgroup that we've started kind of looking at is the kind of targeted action, as Irene had mentioned, and we've been in contact with relevant organisations for, in particular, one of the priority areas that's been identified, and we have an initial meeting next week organised to discuss that further as well. But we'll keep you updated on any progress as we move forward. Thanks very much.
Right. Any other updates on that? And just the youth engagement, it's probably interesting to be aware of it, that through meetings with the community council and the police, etc., we have a project that we're developing for the youth where we're hoping to remove the tubs that are on the Airdrie Road and place them in the town centre and replace these with concrete tubs that will have a local artist do an outline on these tubs and have the youth paint them, fill them in, and also have them plant them up. Lidl's have offered their car park and are willing that when the project's being run, that they will provide a barbecue for everybody involved, and the police and the fire brigade, etc., various other community groups are involved in pulling this together. So it might be an inoculation towards the youth engagement group. Since Camille's not here, the public and community transport, that's been led by the Kilsyth and Villages Community Forum, and they've been pulling together some information on routes and public transport and community transport, and they have a few pieces of information all written up. So hopefully we'll be able to maybe get Camille, when he comes back, to organise a sort of public meeting to discuss that. The improved environment with a focus in the town centre, that is... Oh, you want to come in, Heather?
No, sorry, I was directing vitamin use to my children. I apologise.
Oh, that's okay. They are priority. Right. The improved environment one, that has been led by Kilsyth Community Council, because we've been doing a lot in the community through improvement works, etc., etc. And the thing that is dominant on these, the two items that are dominant on that LOIP, or that working group, is the town vision and the Kilsyth and Kelvin Valley Framework and Action Plan. So these are two key factors, and in that group we're going to have planners, etc., involved in that one. So because currently there's no intention to start the town improvement vision, the town vision, until 2023, and then to start looking at who owns what in the town. But we need to get something going to encourage the town to get involved. Yes. We'll follow up on that. Digital inclusion. Now, I have an update from that subgroup, and sort of a couple of the main things involved in it is that, and what I'll do is I'll present this, get it in a more presentable forum, and I'll pass it to Christine. It'll form part of the minute instead of reading everything out that's been there. But Comms World has a major involvement in this subgroup, and we've asked that we meet them in Kilsyth, Comms World, and Lynn Gow and various other people from that organisation, from the subgroup, really to discuss what we need to do in the way of digital inclusion in the town. Instead of it being lost in a much bigger conversation, a much wider conversation. So as soon as I've got that meeting arranged, I'll let everybody know. I don't know, the targeted action, that is very much a quietly working away subgroup. It's Community Council's been working on that kind of thing for a few years now, and the targeted action is in housing areas and areas that we need to upgrade and improve, and without a lot of publicity on it, because we're not going to stigmatise areas, and that's why it's called that. Yes. And Christine and I are due for a walk round were due for a walk round on Monday, round Kilsyth, but she's decided that she's going to have a walk round Broadwood Pond or something like that. Yes. Anything else on these LOIPs? Any queries, questions, or total objections? Heather?
It's just regarding the targeted groups. I mean, some of them we literally have no formal groups that meet in our immediate community, and indeed potentially in our wider community. We know that, for example, North Lanarkshire does not have a tradition of LGBT organisations, but thankfully youth organisations are changing that landscape in North Lanarkshire. So if only the adults could catch up. But it's been expressed to me recently that there might be an interest in some sort of LGBT alliance type group, a Rainbow Alliance kind of thing, similar to some of the things that's going on in a couple of your schools, because parents or adults are saying they want to come along because they have LGBT experiences in their family, or they themselves are identifying or questioning, and folk have felt the need to talk to me about that. So we may have if you like, a blossoming group there that we might be able to consider, and I'd certainly be happy to meet with, or be with Irene, or quiet please, with Christine or whoever, to to discuss how best to take that forward so it can be done in a sustainable manner, rather than me just saying I'm meeting up with 3 folk for a cup of tea and we're getting a constitution developed and a result of that. I would like it to be much more sustainable, because it could really change representation for underrepresented groups in our community.
That would be good, Heather, if we could get that going. Yes, yes. Any other? Helen? It's Susan, I should say.
Thanks very much. On that point, Councillor McVeigh, I was just going to say that Ian Johnson, that just left one of their Concordat meetings, the focus group, will be LGBTI plus groups, and that's on Tuesday the 4th of October, and I think they're having it online. Just to let you know about that, if that was a place that you could hook up and have further kind of conversations on it. That's me.
And that's Ian Johnson. Right. Ian. Grant? Any other queries or questions on that element? Nope. Right, thanks very much. Item 5, community matters. Heather, name of community board. You wanted to make sure that this was raised again.
Yeah, I just, for me, we had made a decision at the community board, we as a collective had agreed that it would be called Kilsyth and Villages, because while Kilsyth is a town of anchor, actually we've got villages with very distinctive identities that are round about us, and it was just really to ask if we could have Kilsyth and Villages added into the title to ensure that Queensburn, Banton, Kelvinhead, Croy, Auchenstary, any other hamlet that's there can feel included, and it's not just about the bigger town in the area.
Yes, we raised that a wee while ago, and Matt, you were going to take it up with the council. Do you want to come in, Matt?
Briefly, Chair, and that's a Councillor McVeigh's point. There's no issue with us doing that, and we'll make sure that any kind of branding is changed for the next cycle of meetings and going forward. So we'll take that up straight away.
Right, grand. Thanks very much, Matt.
Yeah.
Good. Any other queries on that item? No. The temporary transfer of head teachers from St Maurice's High School and Kilsyth Academy. This has caused quite a bit of stir in our community, in the sense that the head teacher for Kilsyth Academy was absent for quite a while due to illness, and he was no longer back, and he was being temporarily transferred to Christon High School. And the head teacher from St Maurice's was being temporarily transferred to St Andrews, if I got that right. And it's great to have the knowledge that these head teachers are seen in such high respect that they are moved from their existing schools to sort out or to deal with problems in other schools. But the deputy heads at Kilsyth, and as far as I'm aware at St Maurice's, they have stepped up to fill in the shoes of these head teachers. And the question is, why can't the deputy heads at these other schools stand up and take over until they get a proper head teacher? Is there a problem in these schools or in deputy heads, or does anybody know what the problem is? No. We should have Gerard McLaughlin here.
Sorry, Bill, I asked for comment from education in relation to the questions that you've put forward. We didn't get a response in relation to the question you just asked there about could the deputy heads move on, but the comment that I received was that in St Maurice's, Kevin O'Connor, the head teacher, was approached by the service and asked if he could cover St Margaret's High head teacher vacancy on an interim basis, which we know, until the post was filled. As a result of this, we have an acting arrangement in place until the St Margaret's head teacher's post is filled via an advert that's going to go into My Job Scotland. So that's what we found out from there. In terms of Kilsyth Academy, Mr Orrock was approached again by the service and asked if he would cover Christon High School. And again, that will be advertised nationally on as a vacancy on My Job Scotland. Clearly, the measures are not ideal, but education are fully committed to ensuring that the vacancies are filled as a priority. We'll appreciate that the service currently has a number of vacancies at head teacher level, which has resulted in having to deploy contingency planning arrangements across the estate. So that was the response that I've received from education, just as an update. Thanks, Bill.
Thanks, Christine. Heather?
Received good news today that the St Patrick's head teacher post is live now for the vacancy that we have at St Patrick's Primary School. So that's at least one job in advert. I know that Councillor Jones and I took the opportunity at the end of the Education and Families meeting yesterday to basically engage in conversation, Gerard McLaughlin, on issues regarding a number of school issues that we have, particularly around about the head teachers trying to understand what kind of time scale that will be required, because every school functions better when they've got a captain that's steady in there. So he says he'll come back. As I said, they confirmed today by email to myself and Councillor Jones that the St Pat's head teacher post is at least out. So hopefully we'll see Christon and St Margaret's following, so that we, our communities can get our head teachers back.
Thanks, Heather. I would assume that head teachers are in the same bracket as heads of departments and other senior officials in the council, that they need a 3 months notice before they can then leave. Unless you get special agreement, but normally it's a 3 month
If you're within the authority, you can be moved Friday to Monday, because your employer's not changing, your location is. So a head teacher can actually move very quickly, so you don't need, hence why we're in this circumstance. The head teachers moved very quickly, and then it was the acting position that took the time to fill in, which left us in a certain amount of consternation of, are we getting an acting that is known to the school and the estate that's there, or is there somebody coming in like a parachute? So while we're heartened in the fact that it was located deputy heads that have went into position, that isn't the case. And because depending on what school it is, they don't all have deputies. It could be principals, and it's too big a jump for a principal to jump from principal teacher to head teacher. So the circumstances aren't quite the same across. So
So
if they were coming from out with the authority, then a significant notice period would be likely to be required.
So the head teacher for the likes of Christon and St Margaret's, it was, not St Andrews, but St Margaret's, did they move to another job within North Lanarkshire, or did they retire, or did they move to another authority? Do we know?
I think one left the service. I think it was a retiral, and I'm not sure about the other one.
Yes, because this seems an awful big gap. And it's our schools and our pupils that don't suffer, because we have every confidence in the deputy heads, but it's not right. Jean, you were coming in there.
I mean, Christon wasn't filled at the time because it was being looked at as to be a Melham. Anybody that's been up onto the Christon campus, the library, the community centre, and everything's on the campus. I know a Melham's a sweary word to some communities, but you know that was why that post was never filled. But I was at the PTA, the last parent council before the holidays in Kilsyth Academy, and Alan Henry assured us that by the middle of October, Kilsyth Academy posts would be advertised. Unfortunately, to get the update, the parent council meeting's on at the same time as this meeting, so I couldn't split myself in two and go to both meetings, a bit like Heather. So we're here because this is an important meeting, but we've arranged to get a feedback after the parent council tonight on what the parents are feeling about how it's settled in that particular school anyway.
Just maybe clarify something there, Jean, that you said that Kilsyth Academy's vacancy would be advertised. Did you mean Christon's?
Christon's would be advertised.
Christon's, right. We're beginning to get a panic.
The primary one.
And is that a rumour?
I know. I think it was because I got thrown this week when I seen Christon, and it was the primary school rather than the secondary school advert. It was out, and I thought that's earlier than we were told. They tend not to put them all out at the one time because they're struggling to recruit. Yesterday, Jared told us about a post in a really good school who. All the schools in North Lanarkshire are excellent. The ones in Kilsyth are even better than anywhere else, right enough. And they only got 4 applicants and 2 pulled out before the interview. So, you know, we're at the stage that people are not applying for head teachers' posts. So there's going to be a difficulty long term and filling these posts that the teachers are seconded to. But I want to see them back in our schools.
Yes, and if there is a problem in people applying to extend their career into these posts, we need to find out why. We need to tie down and find out why deputy heads or whatever are not wanting to apply for these heads of schools, the head teachers' positions. So that's something that we can maybe have a look at later on, try and tie it down. Right. The next item was the removal of secondary school librarians and the library service. Now, that, in a sense, that came out of the blue to Kilsyth on the basis that the reason it came out of the blue is because we didn't know anything about it until it appeared on Facebook in the community. So we then looked into it, and then yes, there was a cut identified, and if I remember right, it was in the budgets for 2020. That's when the cut was identified, but then implemented now. But prior to that, and I can't find it at all, and I've had somebody else, another couple of people, look through Mars for the report on the review of school libraries. And that had to, there was an element went up, a report went up, but and it was approved by the council, and within that report it said that a review of the school libraries would be prepared and submitted. And I can't find it anywhere. And my last conversations was neither could other people. The cut was then implemented without the review. Now, I'm not saying that the school library service doesn't need reviewed, because modern technology and kids at the school don't necessarily go to the library and take out a book like old fossils like me had to do. Look up the Encyclopedia Britannica and find out all that. They now do it on the phone. It doesn't necessarily mean that they don't need some form of library function and service. So can we tie in, does anybody know whether that review was actually carried out and approved by council before the cuts were actually implemented? Anybody got any ideas?
Hi Bill, it's Christine again. I had asked for an update on that, and the kind of feedback was that the decision taken by committee was to delete the school librarians and secure savings of in excess of £600,000. Part of the committee decision was to consider an alternative operating model with active and creative services. As part of the review process, there is now an opportunity to consider integrating the school library model within the active and creative community structure and ensure a better, more coordinated delivery model for library services. So that was the kind of feedback that I was given in relation to that one. Thanks, Bill.
Thanks, Christine. You got any idea of what that means?
I'm just providing the information I was given, Bill. Yeah.
Does that mean that the public library service will become part of the school library service, or what? Heather, you were first.
In essence, this was a budgetary decision, and in a community where ultimately we're going to have community hubs, with school library and a community library, you wouldn't have both. So in many ways, this is a precursor to this. So it will be about looking at how a community library is remodelled to support the school library provision. But the backdrop was being £500 million has come out the council, and it's come out the council from services that we value all across the council.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, Heather. What I do, we've obviously got all these cuts to make, but there is no community hub in Kilsyth yet, and it's not in the current 5-year programme. So the library is not going to be available for the school until there's a school hub built, and it's not even considered.
Not necessarily, because
in the next 10 years.
It really depends on what the relationship is with active and creative communities and how their reservice focus takes place. So we really need a timescale on what that happens, because we won't have, as a community anywhere in North Lanarkshire, the new hubs will not generally all be open and functioning before this previous services close. And that's always caused me immense concern, but we need to have bridging services in place, and when we have a community library, we need to make sure that the redesign of that supports our pupils, because literacy learning is so important. You know, it would be easy for us to say we need to do that, but if we don't take £600,000 from there, where do we take it from?
Yeah, I fully understand that.
And that's the challenge that we have. But a lot of this, again, is there was public consultation on the budget on 2020, and it was within that. So it would be approved at the February budget following that, maybe 21, if not in 20. I'm sure we can get the timescales for that. But I think the critical thing is, Christine, if we're able to drill down to the service to say when will the active and creative communities services refocus be to enable, you know, our schools to get service.
On that one, Christine, could we have answers emailed out or circulated before the next board meeting, so we're not waiting until end of November, December? Jean, you had your hand up.
Heather covered most of the points I was going to make about we need to make sure that we get a time frame for the reconfiguration of active communities and how they're going to take over the libraries and how they're going to man the libraries.
Yes. Right. Okay. One of the things that I would like to consider and is that when it comes to the budget time, that when the council make a list of the cuts that they have to make, that these are presented to the community. So the various community groups or the board, etc., that be informed quite clearly, because we've had several incidents over the years of where a cut suddenly comes along, bang, and then the public don't know anything about it until it happens. Now that's not their fault, because they're not going to go into the Mars system and, oh, I must check up on these community, on these, all the reports and the committee minutes and stuff like that. There's probably one or two that do that in our area. But I think that these cuts, once they're agreed by the council, should be then published with the service that's being cut, the type of cut, how much it's going to save, and what the implications to the community are. And then it then comes down to the community council and the board and forums and local groups to be made aware of these and to circulate it to the community and publicly just inform them that these are cuts that have been made for various reasons, and that's the implications. Because just now we don't know anything about these cuts, or the community doesn't know anything about these cuts until bang, it happens. Yes. Okay. So maybe that's something that the board could request that the council actually do. Matt?
Just on that point, Bill, as part of the budget process, the communications strategy is part of that as well, and we'll ensure that the feelings of the board are fed back into our strategic communications team to make them aware of that once the budgetary decisions are made by the council, that these are made public and are shared with our local community. So we'll make sure that sentiment is fed back.
Yeah, right. Grand, thanks very much, Matt. Any queries or questions on that item before we move to the next? Right, Kilsyth Town Vision and Action Plan briefing. Matt?
Thanks, Chair. I believe this was an issue that was raised with the growth team, and unfortunately the growth team were unable to be represented at the meeting tonight, but they have shared a kind of briefing that we will include as part of the minute going out, so that people can see everything in relation to this as part of this briefing. I'll give a very a bit of a synopsis of that, if that's okay, if we can let me in for a couple of minutes on that, Bill.
Thanks very much, yes.
The feedback is in relation to the vision for Kilsyth, providing a long-term concept proposal for the town centre focused on developing Kilsyth as a key visitor attraction and destination with improved linkages to existing attractions and a revitalised town centre. In particular, it proposes that it can be achieved through a number of core projects that have been mentioned before, but I'll briefly mention again. Developing a new town hub with associated facilities, connecting the town centre and strengthening links to the Glasgow-Stirling Road, developing a northern gateway to raise the town's profile as a historic borough, developing stronger links, routes and opportunities for active travel, increasing residential opportunities within the town centre, and developing a new town square in Main Street North. In order to support the delivery of the vision, the council will work in partnership with communities across the North Lanarkshire in relation to action plans for each of the towns, identify short, medium and long-term specific projects that will be taken forward to support the visions, and for short-term projects will include identifying a programme of works and cost estimates. Due to staffing resources, as part of this update gives information relating to this required to develop the action plans. It was agreed that these would be developed initially for 4 towns, Airdrie, Cumbernauld, Motherwell and Wishaw, with the remaining town action plans developed in 23-24. Therefore, consultation on the Kilsyth Town Action Plan will commence in 2023, However, although this is still to be developed, the Council continue to support improvements in Kilsyth in line with the improved town vision. This includes housing grant allocated to Clyde Valley Housing, Parkfoot Street development in Kilsyth. This is now on site and due to be completed in June. And early negotiation discussions relating to the potential acquisition of the site on property on Main Street, with plans to redevelop these sites and properties in line with the vision proposals. The plans for the town hub development are much longer term, and there will be a separate, albeit related, consultation arrangements will be put in place for the hub at an appropriate time. That's the update in relation to that. If there's any issues, queries, you can certainly send them through to us. We'll make sure they're put forward to David Greer and the growth team and ensure that further information is made available. But that's the update at this stage, Chair.
Right, thanks very much, Matt. Right, I'm not going to tie up board time on thoughts and feelings and that, but that links, as I said earlier, to one of the LOIPs in the area, and it defeats the purpose of getting a LOIP up and running when all this is suspended in the air as to what's going to happen. We've got a lot of things going on in the town, and a lot of people have done lots of work to help develop the town, but it's dying a death because we've got this big gap that we're not even sure that a lot of these things that are shown in the town vision document are even feasible or even desirable. That the sort of town squares and stuff like that. Look at the massive problems we've got already in Kilsyth with the parties and things that take place in the Kilsyth Main Street and up in Market Square. Saturday, there was about 40 people out partying in the main street. The police can't deal with it, but they're causing massive problems to the local community. Yes. So we're going to have to look at it and start discussions earlier than 2023. Unless it's 1st of January 2023, then we'll be fine. I'm quite happy to meet on the 1st of January. I want to have a hangover. Yes. But right, enough said on that one. Thanks very much for that update, Matt. Any updates from local community groups and organisations? Nothing. Right. 6 local investment.
Sorry, Bill, there's Suzanne Niven has her hand up.
Oh, right, Suzanne, sorry, I didn't see you there.
No problem at all. I was a little bit too late pressing my button. I just wanted to give a quick update, if that's all right, on the work of Who Cares Scotland in North Lanarkshire.
Yes.
So I'm not aware if everybody knows about us or what it is that we do. So if it's okay, just a couple of minutes, I'll just try as quick as I can. So we're based in Bellshill, but we do cover North Lanarkshire and South Lanarkshire. We work with young people from about age 5 to 26, young people who have experience of the care system primarily, but also young people that are involved in child protection procedures or are receiving treatment under the Mental Health Act or have additional support needs. So we do some advocacy, one-to-one advocacy with young people, but we also have 3 participation groups that run as well. And I noted earlier about the work in Kilsyth around decorating some of the and getting young people to engage in some planting and Lidl's having a barbecue, and it might be something that our young people could be interested in as well, getting involved in. So I'm happy to do some partnership around that if it's appropriate. But we have 3 groups of young people that meet every 2 weeks. So we have our older young people who engage directly with elected members, senior officers, to try and make the experience of the care system better for young people that are in or going to be looked after away from home. And we have an arts and crafts group and a early teenage group who also meet every fortnight as well. And our priorities at the moment are just really generating referrals and making our service known. We do struggle to get the amount of referrals that we're looking for. So, but anybody can make a referral to the service as well.
That sounds very interesting, Suzanne. I'd be quite interested to meet up at some point and just get a wee bit more information.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, that would be good. Any questions to Suzanne?
Chair, can I just ask a quick question? I know Suzanne mentioned there about the make referrals. How would people do that, Suzanne? Is it just phone call, or how would they do that?
Yeah, so we've got a website, whocarescotland.org, and if you go onto the website, there's a button that will say Get Advocacy, and that opens up the referral form. And it's a few questions and some information from the young person. All we do ask is that the young person's aware that you're making the referral before that we contact them. But advocacy is very much a choice. So even though a young person's been referred to us, we would explain what it is that we can do and then allow the decision to be theirs, because we are there to help promote and protect their rights. And, you know, they have a right to whether or not they want to have an advocate first and foremost as well.
Good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Christine. Thanks very much, Suzanne.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Right. Item 6, local investment engagement. Consultation, green space. Christine?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. We've just been asked by Maureen Kinloch from the Council to let everybody know that the Green Space Participatory Budget and Public Vote is now open. A link to the website includes summaries of shortlisted projects and a voting forum. It's on the Council website, as I said, under Green Space Participatory Budgeting / North Lanarkshire Council. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Christine, you're the next one as well. Livingston Park consultation.
That's great. Thanks, Chair. Just a quick update to let people know that the Livingston Park Group are looking to carry out consultation round about the development of a play park at Livingston Park in Kilsyth. And just to let people know that we would be looking for people's views on what they think should be included within the play park, and that will also include consulting with young people who would use the play parks as well, and we've got plans going ahead for contacting and consulting with young people within Balmallock Primary School and St Patrick's Primary School to gather the views of the children as well. So it was just to give an update on that. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Christine. I'd be quite interested in having a wee chat about that and maybe meeting the organisers. Vested interest. I stay along the road from it, and my grandkids have used that play area for 20 odd years, all different ones. Having been a playground designer in the past, I would be most interested to see what's what. So we could have a wee chat about that when we meet. Good. Heather?
Thanks, Bill. Christine, obviously there's a budget connected to the play park that sits separate to that of the LDP. I'm just wondering, are we able to confirm and indeed potentially announce what that figure is and where that's coming from? Because that was big news this week.
Matt, is that something you would want to kind of give an update on? Just in terms of the funding for that, is that on your kind of update?
Is that in that one specific
It's not coming from it's not coming from LDP. I think the understanding is it's coming through the funding. It's coming through the Scottish Government funding. But we still need to clarify that, Councillor.
Yeah, I did clarify the exact amount. I think this one it's part of the Scottish Government funding. We did get more funding announced in the last week or so, Councillor Bram, in relation to play. and obviously that's one of the ones that's been taken forward on this cycle. I think it's going out to tender later this year, before the end of this year. Hopefully following the consultation, etc. And that will determine the budget that's required for that. We are looking at the moment in terms of contract inflation for a number of projects, that things are a bit higher than we anticipated. So we're confident that we'll be able to deal with it, provide a really good resource in that area following the consultation and the tender exercise. We'll be able to give you specific details regarding the funding once we get through that process.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Matt. Really appreciate it. The group of folk involved have been with this for the long haul. I know they've had COVID getting in the way, and they are keen as mustard to get on, and there is community support around about them as well. You know what it's like, there's the folk in the committee that are they're like the hole in the middle of the Parliament, then there's all these folk round about that in the Mint that are wanting to do actions to go forward, and I think they're really keen to do some engagement and activity in the park itself, but it's just about whether or not they do that as part of the consultation process, or actually to feed back what the children of the area have said as a end of part one. So it's a really exciting time, and great to know that this is potentially at fingertips distance, you know, rather than a group sitting going, we need to find all the money, because they've marched along. So that's just wonderful news, and that the LDP isn't relying on to fund another play development, because the investment in play from LDP has been exceptional in the last decade, and long may that continue, but it's good to know that this one isn't coming solely from there.
Matt?
No, absolutely. It's really good to have the funding from other sources, you say, but as I say, the LDP, the funding that the council spent on play generally has been sector leading over the last few years across North Lanarkshire, and it really is making a big difference. This project itself, the feasibility study that's ongoing, the consultation, that will determine how much is going to cost from that. And as I say, that's something we will make sure that the board is kept fully informed on.
And I'm sure anybody that's looked at the chat bar will see that there'll be some former park users that I'm sure will be interested, and whether she's no longer employed by North Lanarkshire at the time, I'm sure I'll nominate Nicole to try the swings in the shootout, should there be swings or a shoot in the design.
I would agree 100% with that, Heather. I was just going to comment that the comment from Nicole in the chat bar is that she used to use it going to school. Well, Nicole has worn better than the play area has. Now, I don't know whether it was all the tough play that she put onto it or what, I don't know, but right.
I'm making no comment on that, Bill, none whatsoever.
Okay, I'll have a chat with your mum and dad about that tomorrow.
Chair, Councillor Jones has got her hand up.
It was just
sorry,
it was just
Jane.
to confirm that at committee today it was approved that the Livingston Park be included in the future procurement list. We have a list that has to be approved via committee before it goes to procurement, and that was approved today for Livingston Park. So
that's excellent, Jane.
Jumping up and down with excitement.
Well, it means that the project is moving forward, and that's the key thing about projects in the community, is it doesn't matter how slow they move, so long as people see them moving forward. They think there is progress there then. So good. That's good news. Funding opportunities. Irene.
Thanks, Chair. It was just to remind the Community Board members that the Recover NL Environmental Fund is open again and seeking applications from the Kilsyth locality. Applications are up to £2,000 for a single organisation or £3,000 if it's a joint bid. The funding programme is going to remain open until all the funding has been distributed, and for the Kilsyth locality it's just over £5,400. But before anyone applies, if they could check that monies are still available before they put their application in. So if anybody's wanting any more information about that, they can either contact me direct or send an email to Community Matters. There's also the Community Grant Programme the grant award programme that's open, and that's seeking applications from any community or voluntary organisation from £1,000 to £50,000. The closing date for those applications is October the 9th, but the funding will actually be for projects from April 23 until March 2024. And there's also health and social care monies available within the Kilsyth locality. Susan, I don't know if you're able to tell us how much is still available through Community Solutions.
Thanks, Irene. Yeah, we still have a fairly big pot, about 40 grand at the moment we're sitting with. So the maximum you can get is 5,000, but that has to be for a really strong bid. But yeah, we're definitely, anyone even interested in putting in an application, just get in touch with me. Thanks.
Thank you, Susan.
Thanks, Susan. Thanks, Irene. Any further questions to Irene on that? No. Right, so item 6.2b, that's okay. Right, item 8, standing agenda items, community coordinators update. Nicole, you have been waiting patiently.
Thanks very much, Bill. Yeah, Matt's already covered the update, obviously, in the town vision and the action plan. I've only got really one other item, which community coordinators have been asked to bring to your attention, and it's the launch of the Shared Prosperity Fund, the UK Shared Prosperity Fund. Now, I will forward on the full email so that the details are there for the board. But basically, this is it'll replace the UK Shared Prosperity Fund, will replace the current EU funding, providing £2.6 billion of funding for local investment across the UK up to the 31st of March 2025. Local authorities have been awarded conditional allocations of funding, which are accessed via the submission of an investment plan linked to the fund's investment priorities, local opportunities and outcomes. In that, North Lanarkshire have been awarded £13.871 million worth of funding, and the investment plan will form part of a wider Glasgow City Region investment plan being submitted on behalf of the 8 local authorities within the city region. There's a full other page, which, as I say, I will forward on so that you've got the full detail, but basically it focuses on 3 broad areas of delivery within North Lanarkshire. One is people and skills, so that's around employability support, programmes and funding to support those furthest from the labour market, including support to extend provision for vulnerable young people to achieve positive post-school destinations and pathways, and support to develop skills academies to support North Lanarkshire residents seeking employment with a focus on digital skills, construction and health and social care provision. The second area is supporting local business, which is in 2 parts again: grant funding for businesses to help increase startups, growth, investment and employment opportunities, including digital and advanced manufacturing support, and targeted support to help increase business startups and encourage entrepreneurs in excluded or underrepresented groups, and funding to support growth and capacity building of social enterprises. And last but not least, communities in place. Again, twofold: delivery of a series of challenge funds to support active travel, to enhance sports, arts, culture or heritage facilities, to support community organisations to improve digital connectivity, and to support community empowerment and capacity building, and the delivery of the 9 North Lanarkshire local outcome improvement plans. And last, bespoke support for tourism marketing, expansion of volunteering opportunities and support to assist those facing fuel poverty. Now, as I say, there's about a full page and a half. I've just picked up the highlights, Chair, but I will forward on the whole email so that it can be included and everyone can see the detail. But I'm sure you'll agree there's a number of facets there of that potential £13.87 million worth of funding, which would be of interest to the Kilsyth board and the delivery, particularly of the LOIP. The only other update from me actually relates to a presentation which we had at the last board, and it's a very brief update in terms of the Kilsyth flood risk reduction scheme. As you're aware, from the last update to the board in June 2022, North Lanarkshire completed the silt and vegetation clearance works to re-establish the capacity of the Ebrock burn through Burn Green Park. The council has now signed a memorandum of understanding with Scottish Canals to develop a flood risk reduction scheme utilising the canal feeder and the reservoir, so the so-called smart canal. The next steps, which we are currently working on, is to appoint a design and build contractor, which will be completed by November this year, and thereafter to complete a preliminary design with a cost estimate, which we would expect to have by March 2023. So again, a recap from the last time: anticipated construction of that flood risk reduction scheme is March 2024 to March 2025. Chair, that's all from me at this point.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Nicole. I'm sure that we will, obviously, on the flood protection scheme, we will get a massive support from the SEPA Chief Executive in due course. Thank you. Jean?
Just to say, the work in the burn, really clearing out the burn, has really worked for the Stirling Road residents.
Yes.
When half of central Scotland was flooded a couple of weeks ago, I didn't realise till later on in the day. Heather had went out and checked, and I had went out and checked. Every time it rains, I get paranoid about the Stirling Road, and both of them were extremely clear. So a big thanks to everybody that done the work, because the residents could sleep that night, not worried that they were going to get flooded.
Yes, that night, that evening, when I think it was a Tuesday a few weeks ago, I was actually out in the car with my granddaughter, young granddaughter, and she wanted to cruise Kilsyth to look at the water coming up through the manholes and all the rest of it. But I did go out to Stirling Road, and the Stirling Road was the driest area in the town. So the cleaning out the burns has worked. Though the only qualification I would have on that is, and that's me, nice compliment, stick the knife in and have a nice compliment afterwards. But was that where the Ibroch and the Garrel Burn come together, there is a build-up of the gravel there again, the deposit, and it's nearly as bad as it was when we cleared it, and we cleared about 500 tons from that area, and there must be 400 tons sitting there now, and that's going to be a permanent cleaning problem. That's going to restrict a lot of activity, and there might be something that we need to look at in that stretch of the Garrel where we can catch some of that gravel before it gets to that point. But I'll have a chat with Jim Maguire and that in due course. Yes, and we'll see how that develops over the winter. Yes, but thanks very much. Thanks, Nicole. Heather? You're on mute, Heather.
Sorry. There's no exaggeration in saying that Stirling Road was the driest place in the town, because all round. So I suppose that does create a headache, and the fact that culverts will need cleaned all across the area, because we were seeing drainage issues all across the Kilsyth and villages that night. And I do appreciate that it was flash flooding generally, but there was pools that took a long time. So with that in mind, I've got two issues to raise specifically around about where water has retained in many ways. One was when the river burst its banks, as it's supposed to do under the new design, but actually how it impacts on a North Lanarkshire Council asset, and that's Kilsyth Sports Field. The running track and pitch were flooded immediately because there is no retention wall into the pitch. This has been raised time and time again, and folks say, but that wall was never in the plans. I appreciate that wall was never in the plans, but if we are taking serious, active, healthy lifestyles, and the fact that that is a lettable space for local teams to use, if the river bursts its banks, it then becomes an asset that is unusable by our community. You know, so I think we need to think, you know, have that corporate, you know, one vision on that. And the other part is the outdoor pool that is established in Balmalick Nursery. There is inside the grounds of the education establishment. The education establishment are aware of it, the capital works team are aware of it, but very short work. You know, there's never any work that's been done. I think there needs to be new, whether it be new drains, field drains or otherwise. The nursery have been exceptionally creative in the manner in which they build in a flooded garden into active and risky play for the Waynes love mud, and there's a whole lot of mud there, but it's got nowhere to go. The water's got nowhere to go. So even when things are clear all around, that retains. And my concern is, as we approach a winter, and if we've had an exceptionally hot summer, which usually falls on the other side of that is an exceptionally cold winter, that becomes an ice rink. And if that's an ice rink, that isn't just quite as safe for children to play in. So it's just to raise that issue. And I suppose, and to finish on a high, congratulations to all the Dunbrec team for the work that they've done and been nominated for a national award. It's great to see that that's happening, because we think it looks great, but it's also great for further biodiversity to see that there's species coming back into the area that haven't been here for a wheen of years. So congratulations to all involved and all the partners.
Thank you, Heather. Yes, I haven't been involved in the drainage in that area in the last few years, and we've made massive improvements in it. There are drainage outlets that could take that drainage from the nursery fairly close to the nursery boundary. So we could have a look at that. And Nicole, you've just made a note in the chat bar that you'll pursue it with Jim. Good.
Chair, just to be clear, I'll pursue the issue Councillor Brian McVeigh raised about the sports pitch, so the flooding of the sports pitch area, which is within the design, but I'll make sure that it's as they anticipated and speak to the sports pitch team in terms of how we manage the lets, etc., because there will be periods of time when it is flooded and unlettable. It is part of the design.
Right. That's grand, because we've got several hundred trees to go in that vicinity in the next month or so. I would hate to plant the trees and find that in 2 years' time they're all dug out to build a wall. Yes.
It's the same team that have the interest in both, so we'll make sure that we offer the appropriate advice and make sure that those can stay. That's fine.
Grand. Thanks very much. 8.2 Local Development Programme, the LDP, Matt.
Thanks, Chair. Just briefly, the report was issued, and it's just to update the board on the work that's been ongoing in relation to the projects relating to the local development programme. I'm happy to take any questions if there's any further details required between myself and Irene and Christine. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Matt. Any questions? Just one comment, Matt, really, is that what concerns me is the play area in Rennie Road. Now we've got the field area, the skate park, call it what you like, and it's well used. It's becoming kind of dilapidated. Not the path, not the thing itself, but the ground round about it. Access road in is just hardcore, but that doesn't bother the kids. But it's getting all weeded up, and the ground all round about is beginning to look derelict. And the next stages of it has been put into three phases. Phase 1 is the skateboard park. Phase 2 and phase 3 is still to come, but there's no time scale, and that's going to be a problem because we've not completed that overall project, and we don't seem to have a time scale for it. Have you got any details on time scale or anything like that, Matt?
It's one of the, in terms of the stuff you're describing there, Bill, is more likely kind of maintenance issues there, but we also want to take that back and we'll feed it into the team and just get somebody to have a look at that as part of the regular inspections.
Yeah.
If there's any concern there. In terms of the future, we're more than happy to work with the local groups in terms of developing further proposals for the site. We're aware in terms of the LDP, that the funding for the LDP for Kilsyth wouldn't in itself in a full year would hardly touch a play area development of that nature.
Yes.
One of the things we would need to do, as has been done before, is to continue to work with local groups. And through our team, we're more than happy to do that, more than happy to continue to do that and try and have a more robust time scale for that. So let's see how we can do that and link in with the groups to do. But in terms of the LDP, obviously, it's got to cover a wider area. We can't commit it to specific projects all the time for in one particular area, but we can certainly use bits of it for seed funding, for match funding, to see if there's anything else we can do in relation to that. So we'll look at different options of that, and our team are more than happy to take that on and work with the local community to try and develop a more robust timescale for that.
Okay, thanks, Matt. I will look at that with the local community and see if we can get things going, even if we get an overall design for it and a cost, and look at other funding. Yeah, right.
But just on that, myself and Irene have got a meeting organised with the Rennie Road Alliance to start those discussions. So we've got that planned, and we'll look at how we kind of take things forward as well, Bill. Thanks
that would be good.
Cheers.
Could you give me a note of the date of that meeting? That's good. Thanks very much, Christine. Anything else on the LDP? Right. Any other competent business? I would just like to... Oh, Matt?
And just briefly, Chair, just one point I wanted to highlight here was in relation to petitions. People may have noticed that petitions are no longer on the agenda for community boards, and it's just to reaffirm the situation that the administration in May decided that community boards would no longer hear petitions, and that a petition subgroup would be set up to do that. So as far as the communities team is concerned, we can still take in petitions that come in. We will assess those and make sure that they're channeled through the appropriate areas within the council. But they won't come back to the board in terms of for consideration or deliberation at that particular time, and it will go to a subgroup. So just to make the board aware of that, just to confirm that position.
No, that's excellent. Yeah, because I understood that there was a petition for the school library element that kicked off from Kilsyth Academy, and I was just saying to Christine, I wonder what happened to that. Did it ever get submitted? I don't know, but right. Thanks for letting us know about that. Yeah. Anything else? Right. Just before we go, I would just like to thank Nicole, because she's not going to be here for the next board meeting. I would just like to thank her for all her hard work that she has done in Kilsyth and the surrounding area, tolerated all the pressure that we've been putting on her, all the emails. Mind, she's had the benefit of getting a cup of tea and a hot scone, but it's been great working with you, Nicole, and I really hope that you have an enjoyable and a long career in your new post as Chief Exec for SEPA. And I'm sure we will come across each other again in the near future.
Chair, that's very much appreciated. Can I say that it's been my absolute pleasure and privilege to be able to undertake any work, and particularly work alongside colleagues in the Kilsyth board. So thank you to you all, because to be honest, you've made my job easy. It's been an absolute pleasure. So thank you very much for that, and I'm absolutely sure our paths will cross as we all move forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Nicole. Anything else anybody has before we close the meeting? No? Right, thank you very much for coming, and look forward to seeing you at the next board meeting and on the streets of Kilsyth in the near future. Bye.
Thanks, Chair.
Thanks,
Bye.
Chair. Bye.
Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Good night, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.